chess on itself teaches so many great skills in life. I think chess should be one of the mandated classes at schools. While chess can be a competition, like a game competition, I always like to say it's a beautiful act of sharing your brain skills. Discipline is your reputation. Discipline is your respect that you've earned from others, and respect is something that you can never demand, it's earned. So disciplining yourself, practice every day that you set out for yourself is important.
Hey, welcome to yet another edition of Chess Klub podcast. This is something that we are starting brand new. And today I'm very excited to have Nia Nielsen with us. Nia is a women's FIDE master, and she has been in the chess world for over a couple of decades, and she's got a lot of experience to share with you. And I'm more than ever excited to have this conversation with her. I've been wanting to have this for quite some time now, and here we are. So enjoy the show, and I'm sure you will learn something from it. And as she says, if we can benefit even one person, we would be honored to do that. So look forward to having that conversation with her. Hey, Nia, welcome to Chess Klub podcast.
Hi, Sudev. Thank you for having me.
Great. I'm excited about you coming and sharing your experience with us. I'm pretty sure that this is going to inspire a lot of young children, as well as a lot of parents to encourage their children to take up chess.
I hope so. I'll try to share as much as I can. It can be a little bit sensitive and maybe even, personal, but I do hope everybody will understand by end of this is not to discourage anybody or scare somebody. That's actually specifically for parents to hear and maybe take notes what not to do.
Yeah, maybe.
What not to do is probably, yeah.
But I'm excited about your journey, to know more about your journey, the lessons you've learned, and then you've gone to become some major titles. So very much looking forward to it.
Thank you.
All right. So when did you first start playing chess, and what got you interested?
That's actually a funny story, and I'll try as much as I can to kind of narrow it down. But I was 7 years old, 7 to 8, somewhere in that range, and my sisters were 6 and 5, and we actually started playing chess purely because there was really nothing much to do. We grew up in a post-Soviet Union country called Georgia, not the state, and there were times where we didn't have electricity. And I mean like living in a full developed city with nine-story apartment buildings with elevators, but apparently no power. So that said, there are a lot of different challenges, but specifically to the chess, we had only so many games and things that we could do to entertain. There was, in my opinion, it was a beautiful era in a way, now looking back, right? We did a lot of playing outside with the friends, but when it would get colder, most of us would actually kind of hide in the houses, and reading and playing board games was pretty much one of the only things we could entertain ourselves. And that was just out of, in a way, necessity, or how would you say this in English? It's always a hard time to, forced. Okay. But not in a bad way. Mm-hmm. We literally had no other choice, things. Basically. Yeah. And then especially having 4 sisters at the time, 4 sisters, the youngest was too young. Older one, me and my 2 younger sisters, we kind of tried to do the chess. Later on, we discovered the older one had more of a talent for the singing, so she became opera singer. And then the middle 3, we continued play chess. And within 6 months to a year, our father thought that we were ready to go to a tournament. So when we went to our first tournament, and until that point, our father was our primary teacher. And I remember going to the first tournament, and the excitement, the chaos, the adrenaline rush, not knowing even what adrenaline rush means at the time, right? It was just so overwhelming and exciting and fun. it was on its own, its dopamine release for that young age. And I remember saying, this is really fun and I want to continue doing this. So we actually asked our father to get a little bit more serious about the game. And then he signed us up for the chess classes. We actually even moved neighborhoods for that very reason. We actually moved. We were kind of far away from the center of the city. And then he decided to move towards the closer where we could actually commute and walk to the chess club.
Oh, okay. That's how you ended up learning chess.
Yes.
That's cool. So what did you learn most about chess as a kid?
There's not one thing that you can say. One of the major things that I do remember simply sitting still and patiently waiting for an opponent to make their move, right? At the beginning, as a new player, you're eager to kind of have that speed when you play, like, I want to go, you want to go. And then you can just kind of but slowly transitioning from just the hobby and the lover level to a professional, one of the first things that we've learned was to patience and allowing the opponent to take their time to make the move and not get irritated.
Got it.
Yeah.
So I'm sure when you were growing up, there were a lot of players who inspired you. Do you remember who inspired you or some of the coaches?
Believe it or not, there were sister Polgars
that
my father talked about, always, kind of tried to picture them as our idols.
Susan and Judith.
Frankly speaking, I cannot remember whether it was our inspiration or my father's talk, all of it, but I do remember all of us sisters. We were looking at their game, and I believe it was Judith Polgar.
Judith and Susan, yeah.
Judith was the one that's played in the men's tournament because she
was a grandmaster, yeah.
Yeah, and it was that, I think it was secretly his dream too, to make, instead of 3 sisters, 4 of us, because at the time the youngest was too young. And I'm going to say yes, youngest was too young because she was just born. But in that time, even at that early age, he already knew that the youngest one would be added to our
list
crew.
Your crew.
So secretly, he prepared all 4 of us. He gave up on older one because the older one was definitely more like into the singing.
Mm-hmm.
So watching them was probably in learning their games. And not only that, but we actually met 2 of them in one of the first European Championship.
You met both the Polgars?
Judith.
Okay.
We met her in Georgia, Batumi. It was later on in years. This is like fast forward maybe 8 years playing.
One of them is in Florida now. I don't know, Susan or Judith.
Maybe I'll give her a call. Who knows?
Yeah. Nice. Very cool. So let's just talk a little bit about, now that we've gone a little bit, we have a little bit background about you. What are some of the best ways for the kids to start learning chess and improving their skills?
One of the best and probably most important things is from the very first class, teaching them respect of chess.
The respect.
I think this is one of the most important thing that I would encourage and explain to fellow teachers too. While it can be fun, while it probably should be fun for especially the younger kids, but there is this subtle respect that you need to teach your child as soon as they come to the table, respecting each piece, respecting opponent. That is the number, the board itself, right? Just respecting this whole beautiful thing that we call the game, but it's also a science, right? Respecting this game is, for me at least, for my practice, is one of the most important things.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Are there any fun exercises or games that helped you when you were growing up as a kid?
Mostly the problem solving, the
puzzles.
Problem solving puzzles. I call them different names every time, but puzzles were one of the best things. And later on, this is probably 2-3 years into the studying, we've developed the skill which most really serious players do, professional players do, is playing blindfolded. And it was never about necessarily winning until this is like 5-6 years into really
Right.
growing. But it was who could have lasted longer without messing up the move, basically messing up where your piece is located. And I remember it was so much fun going to a camp. So we would go to the camps. I don't know if you guys have them, but
Yeah.
the summer camp. But this is where you go as children, right, as a group with different kids for 2-3 weeks. And I remember at the time, me and my sister, we would just, at nighttime when the lights are off and we're kind of trying to sleep, but who sleeps at 13, right? And I remember me and my sister, we would actually start playing chess and we're speaking and other kids would look at us and like, why you guys are talking about chemistry? Why are you actually it's middle of the night, right? Like, and I remember just messing with them, and it was just like I feel like it also made us feel a little bit not necessarily important, but just a little bit like you had something that other people couldn't do. So it gave us a little bit of self-confidence that just very useful when you grew up in a very challenging times.
Right. Very, very, very important. So in chess, when we start playing chess. We often make mistakes, and we make it, almost every game we make mistakes. How important is to understand those mistakes, and how do you go about reviewing your games and correcting them on an ongoing basis?
For that, I have to answer to first thing. It's absolutely important to make mistakes themselves. That is the most important thing. Without making mistakes, first of all, I've never met anybody that doesn't make mistakes, right?
Even Magnus Carlsen does.
Even Magnus. And in beauty about understanding that mistake is part of the life, it's not just chess, right? Even in the regular life, without making mistakes, you never learn. And one of the most important, in my opinion, understand that mistakes must be made and allowing them to humble you. I think that is the most important. Other things you can talk about on and on, like you learn from them, you develop the skill, you don't make that mistake. But the best part about mistakes, whether chess or life, is actually making you humble. Understanding that the moment you have your ego go up, like I'm the best, you make mistake and then you realize that you too make mistakes. And then it allows you to forgive other people for their mistakes.
Makes sense. So let's talk a little bit about tournaments and preparation for the tournaments. How should young players get ready for their first chess tournament? I know you talked about you getting excited, you going to one city there, and there's a lot of adrenaline rush and things like that. So how should one get excited about some major tournament?
Well, I'm always the person. I need to clarification. So the first, we're talking about the young tournament, young players, and then we're talking about the major tournaments. Those are two different things.
Okay.
For the young players, I would highly recommend for the parents, first of all, and the kids to same thing. Remember the respect. Remember the tournament is that peaceful place. And most importantly, no judgment zone place. This is young, you're young, you make mistakes, so do others. Being quiet and respectful during the tournament is important. One of the things that I would highly recommend also to remember and go through the rules of the games. And we talk as basic as, if you touch, you play, right? What piece, like basic, like the ethic, we call it an ethic of playing the chess. There may not be particularly like a written rule, this is what you should or should not do, or it's against the law, what we say, but there is this written ethic of playing chess and learning those. Respecting your opponent if you do win, especially when you win, shaking the hand when you start the game, as well as when you finish. The difference is in ethic, the losing side reaches for congratulation. Again, not written anywhere. However, one of the most important for working on your own reputation, right? You should never be a bitter loser, and you should always never be, what is the opposite of bitter? Winner. It's the game.
Pride winner.
It's a beautiful way to exercise your game. While chess can be a competition, like a game competition, I always like to say it's a beautiful act of sharing your brain skills. That's all chess should be and is for me. It's not about winning. It's at that time whose brain was more creative.
At that time.
At that time, because no, I would like to believe that no chess player is actually better than the other. While you're playing at chess, and I'm going to go now to more serious, like
Sure.
more serious. When you're preparing for, let's say, rated serious tournaments, at that time for the player, number one, reviewing your own games is really good practice. And by the time you know your opponents, I cannot say, I may go a little bit here longer, right? Typically in a Swiss tournament, you play one game for 9 days, right? The serious tournaments. And but besides the first
One
day,
game per day for 9 days.
correct. Besides the first day, typically the second and the third day, you already know who your opponent are. And learning their games, I remember, was very useful and efficient. It almost gets rid of that original anticipation of what they're going to do. If you're really prepared, it takes away that nervousness before the game. And remembering, again, I understand when you go to the higher level, for some people, the importance of winning, becoming the title. But if you always treat chess with respect, whereas first is the journey, the game itself, then winning and losing becomes sort of irrelevant. I've played games where I've lost the game and I've lost the tournament even, but I've had more people come to me and shake my hands and say it was a beautiful game. And I've never, that's another topic that I'll get to it later. But yeah, that's how I learned to
Feel free.
deal with, that's how I learned to deal with the stress of losing. And one of the reasons actually why I quit chess, because it became too much stress. And that's one of the reasons why I don't play chess today. And while I'm working on it, I promise I am, to get over that self-esteem issue. And that's why one of the reasons I want to share with parents, especially, and the trainers, that there is a level where teaching and inspiration becomes more stressful to a young adult than we'd like to think. And maybe older way was pressure and, beating them down to like, you can do better, right? Like old school, like the Soviet Union, I don't know other countries, but at least the Soviet Union was like beating down and say, you can do better. Nothing is good enough. You can do better every time. In the long run, I think it's more damaging to young adult than
So a lesson for the parents is to keep motivating them and don't put undue pressure. Your child will grow at their own pace.
Correct.
They will pick up things along the way. So let them learn at their own pace.
In their own pace. Yeah, you should be encouraging, especially when we go to the tournaments, explain to them that this is yet another tournament. This
Another
is yet
game,
another. Yeah, there was never going to be, it will never be a last tournament of the city or championship of the state or the world championship. It is important to go. It is important to do your best. But take away this stress that if you don't win this is it. Luckily for us, chess does not have an age gap where this is the age that you should be to play the last. Yes.
So take the stress away from chess, and then it's a beautiful
tool to, I would say, again, compare mind and how the mind works of two different people.
Cool. Any tips for dealing with nervousness during the game, or during or before?
This will be a little bit hypocritic because now that I don't play chess, I'll be honest, I can tell them, I can talk about it, because I've used that stress of chess later on in life to deal with other stressful moments, right? But looking back, I can only give myself the same advice that I give myself looking back, that don't take it too seriously.
Yep, absolutely.
Yes, you want to be putting your best, but try not to take it too seriously.
Don't beat yourself up.
Don't beat yourself up. Understand that the opponent opponent, and I mean a good opponent, should also be nervous despite of how big or low their rating, their opponent's rating is. The good chess player never comes to the table saying, and should not ever say, this is easy. Good chess player should never say that. Therefore, when you sit down, whether the person is higher or lower rated than you, you should understand that they're too nervous, right? And breathe in and concentrate on just creating a beautiful game. Concentrate on maybe pushing limits a little bit, sometimes risk to make something, sacrifice here and there where it makes the beautiful game. Again, I'm not that of a level I want to understand, right? I'm the person I judge myself, right? If I been like a world champion when I already achieved, maybe I would have a different advice, but that has never really been my ultimate goal to begin with. And maybe for some it is, and maybe they're saying this is not helping, I want to have more, tough love. And that's for you. That's for the person, for the parent, for the coach that takes that approach. I don't want to judge anybody. I'm speaking just for me.
Sure, absolutely. So if you were playing, go back to about 20 to 30 years when you started. If you were to...
It's like, well, let's settle with 15 here.
15, okay. Let's settle for 15.
Okay, I'm
Let's
kidding
go back
you.
to 15
I'm kidding
years.
you. It was 25 years.
25 years? Okay. So let's say if I were to ask you, what is one thing that you would take with yourself to a tournament to calm yourself down? What would be that one thing?
Breathing.
Breathing techniques?
Breathing techniques. When you get nervous, especially in the longer tournaments, getting up, walking away, preferably not look at other people's boards, because it will immediately make your brain busy by looking and even maybe trying to solve their problem. Walking away, breathing the fresh air, drinking water. I personally, I'm very hand based, like calmer. Like I just do the exercises. I do like a little bit, even back then, I never realizing what I would do with my fingers, right? I would kind of play with my hands to calm myself down, breathe and go outside. I've made mistakes when I would look at other people's board, and I do remember going back at my board, I'm staring at it, and somehow unconsciously I'm thinking about, oh, I would play this. That's a bigger no-no.
So you don't encourage...
I would highly recommend and avoid looking at other people's boards.
Oh, really? Yeah.
While you're playing. If you're getting nervous, get up, walk outside, have a glass of water, and just give yourself that 5 to 10 minutes. Before the game, as I said, learning other people's games, their favorite openings.
Yeah, preparation is key.
Yeah.
I agree with you. I see a lot of kids, what they do is, sometimes it comes across as trying to be stylish, where they live their game, but they look at somebody else's game and try to analyze their games. So which might be a distraction for your own game.
Absolutely.
Okay. Cool. Let's talk a little bit about developing some good habits for chess. So what daily habits helped you get better at chess over time?
I actually will change that, believe it or not, right? Change not necessarily the question itself, but our answer. It's what chess helped me be better at.
Of course. Yeah.
Right? Because playing chess was, when I grew up, it was, after 1 year, it was more like forced. Let's talk about that first. There was a lot of exercises. We studied up to 8 hours.
8 hours
Saying
of chess?
8 hours a day, which now looking back, I do admit this was one of the main reasons why I retired or quit, whichever suits the situation. But what helped us particularly was the puzzles, remembering openings. We call them debut.
Yeah, debut.
Remembering the openings. And this was a must a day. We would memorize, not just remember, memorize both sides of certain openings. There are so many openings I could not. My favorite was always Queen's Gambit for the white, and the Sicilian when I was playing black. And this is for me. I never really ventured out much from it. I would have done something different if I had like a final tour of the tournament, but typically those were my two. And memorizing up to 10 moves because in each opening there are at least 50 different variations.
Right.
And then you narrow down and you have in each opening up to 5 to 10 different variations, and memorizing them to the point that you can wake up and, go through them in the middle of the night by heart. Doing the puzzles was the second tool that because it speeds up
Your thought
just
process.
the skill, the thought process. And least popular, but because again, for me, I had a luxury of having 2 other players in the house, right? My sisters. And least popular, again, practice that I've noticed here is playing the blitz of different, I'm going to try to explain because I don't know how one wants to say, a different checkmate patterns, yes. Let's say with 2 bishop, or bishop and the knight, or 1 rook. End games, yeah. So we would turn the clock on for like 3 minutes to 5 minutes, and that's the only blitz we were ever allowed to play in the house.
Okay.
And the purpose here was to
get familiar with it.
The purpose here, we knew how to, but the idea was you need to put your opponent in checkmate with the least possible moves. Because in a real world, by the time you got to that 2-piece, chances are you're running out of the time. And a lot of times we've seen that players will end with draw for pure reason because they did not have time, right? And we see this in a younger kids, and we would talk about maybe like intermediate chess player to like advanced, where they come to the chessboard and they have knight or a bishop versus king, and or the rook versus, and they either do the draw because they repeated the moves, or they go on and on and on, and eventually somebody runs out of the time. Right? So that was one of the exercises that we would do. Again, same reason. So we developed the speed of
the end games.
End games, yes.
Cool.
And last but not least is the blindfolded chess, and why it is important, right? Blindfolded chess is purely designed and should be treated as a brain exercise. When you play blindfolded, especially as a young adult, the first question, which is most important question that they forget, when opponent played the move, what are they threatening? What is their goal? What is their strategy? Outside the basic moves where you killed their piece and they took their piece, any other move should be treated as such question. What's their purpose? What's your goal?
Prophylactic thinking, basically.
And blindfolded chess helps you to do that.
Really?
Blindfolded chess makes you ask that question every time opponent, and also trains your brain to constantly, at all time, remember all of your pieces on the board. So not just focus on one corner, but also remember there's a bishop on, let's say, a6, right, sitting there threatening your rook. And that is the purpose of the blindfolded chess, to just simply train your brain.
So puzzles, openings, you said blindfolded.
Endings.
End games.
End games.
Blitz end games.
Blitz end games, yes.
Okay, that's cool. How much time do you think kids should spend practicing chess on a day-to-day basis? I know sometimes it can be overwhelming. In your case, you said you did 8 hours.
It was overwhelming, yes. Number one, as a parent, listen to your children. Do they just want to play chess for fun? And coming to the chess club for 2 hours a week is plenty. Listen to your children, right? If they show the love for chess where they want to grow, personally, 2 hours is the age gap, right? We're talking about 6 to 8, 8 to 10, 8 to 10, 10 to 12. I would increase it by 2 hours. This is just my experience, right? For 6 to 8 would be probably an hour and a half. And then each gap you increase by half an hour, right? Because the kid's attention span is very short, right? That's just...
So 6 to 8, you will be 2 hours, and then each year you
add
increase
like half an hour.
So
that will be just, this is for intermediate to advanced. Now, when you get more serious tournaments, which is like 1800 and above, and now the ambition is to be more advanced and professional chess player, this is where you would enter the 4 hour a day. 4 hour a day. 4 hour a day.
4
and
hours.
Again, this is volunteer in a way, because
so it's not forced.
it should never be
It
forced.
should never be forced. Okay.
It should never be forced because there is a very fine line between I want and I resent. And resent creates the stress, which later on, stress is the 50% cause of losing the game. So understand this. Resentment causes that fear, that anxiety, and how many players that we've known that they're great in the classroom. They're great when they play with the teacher, with their parent, but they go in and they stress out, they cry, and they,
Right.
yeah.
It's part of the daily life that we see.
Well, absolutely.
So, how do you balance school, chess, and other hobbies? There's so many things to do, especially these days. Aquatics, swimming, gymnastics, taekwondo, so many other activities that are there. How do you balance all of that? Pick your winners.
Without sound judgmental, even though I might sound like it, and I apologize for it, it's where a parent puts their priority, so do the kids. Where is your priority? Because today we see a lot of times kids being in their iPads, in their TV, right? There's always a time. We have a lot of time in our day, right? If you balance your time properly, if you allocate your time, everyday practice should not be that difficult, right? So what's important for you? I mean, we can say technology, even though we do have, like right now, we have the online tool, and this involves somebody being on the chess portal and playing the chess, and it's great because it allows them to connect not just the people and the kids in their region, but also the kids connected to the chess club abroad, right? Now, do I want them to play 24/7 in the chess? As much as I would love to, because this is a good tool, I would still recommend to balance both online versus the real life. As for other activities, don't overdo it. Don't overdo it. Kid, again, if your kid wants it, if their kid wants to go to gymnastics and the chess, considering that parent has the ability, right? Financially, mentally. We're talking about here what kids want, but what about what parents want? Just because my kid wants to go gymnastics, karate, soccer, chess, it doesn't always mean that I, as a parent, have the time. So what I have done, me and my husband actually have given the kids the option. We would do, at the beginning of the year, we do the test drive, basically, or the trial. We did chess, we did gymnastics, we did karate, martial arts, and the soccer. And there were times that we only been able to sign them up for one activity, and there were times when we did two. I never do more than two. I personally, in my experience, and me and my husband's experience, we've never done two, because we also need to understand the time that parents have.
You're right.
Right? And balancing our adult time is important too.
Absolutely.
So just to give that, how relevant, you can take it out, feel free, how relevant it is to understand for a parent. A lot of times we consume our life with kids' activities.
That's true.
And because of it, we then feel that kids are obligated to do those activities because we paid money for it. And then we force the kids to go. And then you have tension between parent and the kid. Don't sign them up for more activities than they need for two reasons. Just because you are bored in the house, a lot of times we see that because parents are bored and they want to get out. And they use the kid. Don't use the kid for your own boredom. This is sad to hear, but it is true. Right? And or don't overdo it because you're traveling or whatnot, and you want the kid to be in all activities because you feel guilty. Then try to find the balance, and most importantly, listen to your child.
Yep, makes a lot of sense. Let's shift our discussion toward mindset and focus.
Okay.
Chess can be tough sometimes. How do you stay positive even when you lose a game?
That's like question of life and death, right? It's inner peace. I can't, there's no such thing staying positive, because you then allow the thought that then you should be negative, right? If you start thinking negative, what part of it is negative? Oh, if I lost, I'm not as smart. If I lost, God forbid somebody will get mad at me. So we're already entering the dangerous thought of that there's a possibility that we're treating chess as something negative, right?
Yep.
If we fear that, then nobody should ever leave their house, and probably nobody should let their child to walk. God forbid they fall down. Let's pick them up and see when they start, right? And I'm no child's therapist, if I probably should have been. I always thought about it. But listening by other great therapists is basic rule, right? If we are afraid of failing, then we should never try. And you will fail if you never try. You will definitely fail if you never try.
Right, absolutely. So, what does discipline mean to you when it comes to learning chess?
Everything. I think discipline, maybe for the younger kids, it's a bit more difficult to understand, but I know for young adults, it will mean, it will be very important for them to understand the discipline. Discipline is your reputation. Discipline is your respect that you've earned from others, and respect is something that you can never demand, it's earned. So disciplining yourself, practice every day that you set out for yourself is important, right? Discipline of, same thing, never making fun of another person, right? When they lose or they make a mistake, that's also discipline. Discipline of simple as cleaning after yourself is that immediate respect. When you go to the tournament you've never been to, you finish the game, and instead of lashing out because you lost the game, you breathe in, understand this is yet another game with different result. You put your pieces back up and you walk out without lashing out. That's also discipline. So discipline has many, many forms. It's not just the chess, but daily life, right? For those that are growing up and maybe thinking of, my mom is yelling at me to fix my bed. Fixing your bed is as important as fixing the pieces at the chessboard. It
Absolutely.
is that important, right? And as I said, discipline, when I go through interviews today, because I'm professional, right? Every time somebody asks me, what is your best skill, right? Until today, I'm 40, I said discipline, which, by the way, I've learned at chess.
Makes a lot of sense.
Yep.
So chess does teach you a lot of life lessons.
So many. I can go on, and probably the camera will die before I finish. But yes, chess on itself teaches so many great skills in life that I think everybody should know. This is my personal thing. I think chess should be one of the mandated classes at schools with art and music, like elective. In my personal opinion, it should
I agree with you 100%.
Yeah, I don't know why in the 21st century we still don't have it. We have, again, I don't want to sound that person, but I've known schools that have Lego classes as, like after school. And I get it, it's fun, it's, but they do have art, and they do have music, and they're absolutely important, and we have a PE, right? We have a PE. Now, what about kids that are disabled and they cannot do PE? Why not bring something that they can?
It's for everyone. It's not just the differently abled.
Yeah. But it's an alternative to PE.
Absolutely. So, do you use any tricks or routines to kind of stay focused during long games? You talked about breathing.
So, my personal thing, believe it or not, on the long games were the books.
Okay.
I would actually read a book that would, I cannot tell. I cannot tell. There's no scientific proof that it was a good idea or not.
Regular book or chess book?
No, just regular book.
Regular book, okay.
Regular book, because there are times that you're overwhelmed. There's only so many moves that you can anticipate from a player. So when you play the game, right, and then you sit there, and even before you played, before you made the move, right, the typical process is you play the move, and I know I'm repetitive right here, and then you anticipate at least roughly speaking,
seven most.
5 to 7 different variations, right? So that has a limit. You've thought about it, you made it. Now you're allowing your opponent to do the same, right? 90% of the time, they are going to play one of those 5 to 7 variations,
Right.
especially when you enter the professional realm. And when they're doing, you can get frustrated, you can lose your thought process. And while I said you should not watch another person play the game, because your conscience starts revisiting their game, their solution, for me, it was a book. It was a random book that I would pick, not too dramatic, but something that was easy to read. For me, it worked, right? Walking outside walks. And when I read the book, it's just simply just, I'm relaxed. It's like almost like a breathing exercise from my brain. I would pick up the book, I would read outside, and everybody, like at that time you could, because teachers knew.
Correct.
They would check the book, make sure there was no, like, it's not that you can't have a cheat sheet. Let's begin with it in chess, right? But they would still double check, and they would know I'd go and a lot of times I actually even received a little bit of snarky, like a nerd, like, oh, look at this nerd, like she did. But again, it was fine. I was already, thick-skinned. But that was my personal way of distraction.
techniques.
Yes. Walking outside, going, drinking water was, but yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about some challenges and growth and things like that. So what was one of the hardest moments of your chess career that you faced, and how did you bounce back?
That was probably being beaten by the chess teacher, physically.
Oh, physical. Okay.
Physically.
Oh, because you did not do some things.
Yeah. We've had, talking about bad experience, right? There are teachers, and there are teachers that make the player, whether it's chess, gymnastics, soccer, right? There are trainers and coaches that inspire the children. And we also have those trainers and coaches that not only ruin the child's experience, but also scar them for life. My and my sister's experience was the opposite, scarred for life. We've had, without naming, because in the United States, it wouldn't matter. And if it reaches my country, well, that person knows who they are, right? And I've grown out of it. I've forgiving them because it's not my burden to carry, but that person has damaged some souls. And yelling after losing game, throwing the chess pieces at our face, or even just slapping the head, like, you dumbass, like, how could you? And fear, told you this is gonna get, like, I can't even, like, fear of game became one of the biggest part. Like, after 20 years, you would think that I can do this without. After 20 years, and I was prepared, but fear of playing the game and losing. And a lot of times you would make this move that even you knew that it was such a weak, we call it stupid move, that I'm like, how could I? Later on, I overanalyzed it, that the fear just would overcome all logic, right? And I remember one of the tournaments when I did lose. It was like a win, or like final. It was the final. I made it to the final, and 95, if not 99, of the tournaments that I lost, which was pretty much, besides ever coming to United States, in Georgia, I won only a few tournaments. But the moment I entered the Series League, that anxiety we talked earlier was my number one enemy. My dad is not alive to hear this, and my mom won't, because she's not on social media, so I'm happy. But this is important, and this is important because whether chess or other things, the amount of times I've had suicidal thoughts after losing games, and standing there and looking at like the long staircase, or maybe I run into the car. Now thinking back, I know it's stupid, right? But as an adult, as a teenager, and only understand this concept, right? For somebody in the United States, it may be very normal, like common sense person, like, how, like, really? Over losing game in chess, that fear as a growing adult or teenager was always there. Every time I lost the game, I would come out, I would stand there. Nobody knew I had these thoughts. And just because I was afraid to go home and tell my dad and my trainer, because what would have come? There were, when I said here, there are just the 10th of the actual consequences that we've gotten physically. Because again, grow out, worked on myself, right? And understand that I forgive because their issue was their culture. Their culture said if you beat down, like, you will get, like, if you beat down this person and you enforce the fear, then you'll have a fight, or then you will have the grade. But it did, believe it or not, it did create great chess players in Georgia. It did, don't get me wrong. But it also ruined thousands of others.
Yeah, you shouldn't live in fear. You should not play in fear.
I can name few without, and I'm not gonna, because it's not my story to tell, but they're great chess players today that you know them probably by the name. They came from Georgia, and I single-handedly have witnessed them crying or them having beaten up by their parents. And not to say that, hey, this technique may have worked for some, they may become great chess players, but for me, it was not worth it. And despite the fact that I quit when I was 16, I sort of like rebelled against my parents, and I quit and I said I will never play chess again, which I revisited later on, and I started playing in Colorado when I already came to United States. But I can name also, if I can name 5 players that I know they grew up in an abusive family purely for the chess purposes, to make them stronger, and it worked, I can also name thousands that had adverse impact.
Got it. So how do you handle when you're playing someone way better than you?
Nowadays, I smile. I smile even when I play with my
Or
students.
maybe let me ask you this way. What would you advise someone who's playing competitive chess? How do they handle players who are better than them?
Breathe, relax. Even understand that this is just a game. Learn it. Prepare, like we already touched base, right? We don't want to be repetitive. Learn their moves. But remember that stress is your number one enemy.
Absolutely.
Just do your best. Do not rush. This is more like a scenario based, but a lot of times when you do play with a stronger opponent, they tend to either A, play very fast because it's so easy for them, and or just walking away to irritate you. Don't get in that trouble either. If they play fast and if you have plenty of time, don't respond with speed, right? A lot of times also towards the end of the game, that happens the same reason. The other person is running out of the time and their instinct is super fast. And then we become mimicking them. Step back, control yourself, understand you have plenty of time.
You're right.
Like that is the number one mistake that I have seen also made myself, is that at the beginning of the game, when the opponent does the speed game, we want to, because a lot of times it's a self-esteem / the ego check, right?
Yeah.
If they're playing fast, so should I. I'm not less than you. Like if you can do, so we play this ego game, and that is where we make mistakes. If they're that good, chances are they're going to trick you into something because they're playing so fast.
You're right.
Don't get into the trap. Take your time. Play on your comfort level.
Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So what's something that you were struggling while you were playing chess, but you got better at because you played chess?
You mean what is something in life that...
Yeah, you were struggling with while you were playing chess?
Making mistakes.
Making mistakes.
I used to, and this is a tool world of Nia, right? I used to beat myself down for every mistake I've ever made. Not just the chess, but also in life.
Yeah.
Right? And that part where you say you're not good enough. You should not do even this, like even literally speaking this, right? I allowed myself to be here.
Vulnerable, yeah.
Right? Not only just teaching chess, but also do the podcast, because because of all the mistakes that I've made, because I quit chess, or because, all on and on and on, I'm not good enough. Who am I to do this, give somebody advice? And that's because all the mistakes that I made, right? And later on, I have learned to embrace the mistakes and actually talk about them. And then I realized that by me talking and sharing the story, as small and or as big as it can be based on the listener's perception, right? Even if I help one person, my mission in life is complete. And chess taught me to forgive myself for mistakes that I make in life.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Pretty cool. So what's your biggest piece of advice that you would give to kids who really want to get good at chess?
Practice.
Practice
With whomever you can. And while this is very contradicting sentence, respect chess, but don't take it too seriously when you lose. You respect the game, you respect the art, but don't take it too seriously where you allow chess tell you who you are.
Right.
Tell you that you're not as smart as another person if you lose. And I will try to combine, because I don't know how else to combine. So I've told you this, I practice yoga, and I'm learning this. Maybe I'll become a teacher one day. And my favorite thing when I've learned, and I also teach and I tell this, right? One of the things that I tell why people should do yoga, right? At the practice, if you take a former ballerina or a gymnast, and you take aka 40-year-old woman that does the yoga, and we do the stretch, a certain stretch, right? In any given pose, ballerina's max and my max give us the same benefit. So in other words, when you're playing chess, your maximum and opponent's maximum gives your brain the same benefit. Same sharpness, same skill to think ahead in life. So when we teach the kids, let's circle back to the chess moves, right? One of the to the tournament rules, right? To just to connect the dots. One of the first tournament rules is that if you touch, you move.
Right.
What does it teach the kids in real life? Think before
plan.
You move, right? Plan, anticipate opponents' moves, but later on in lives, any move that they do before they buy the car, before they go to college, before they even date, right? Like simple things that parents don't understand is that they develop this like a, subconscious level, you think of the consequences of that move.
Right.
Yeah.
Of the rule.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. While we may joke, and I even get like this little bit of, like a little friendly sarcasm, we're going to call it today, that, oh, Nia, you overthink all the time. Or do you need to oh, you always thinking like 3 moves ahead. That comes
by playing chess.
That comes still from the chess.
Yeah, absolutely.
Some people may not like it. Some people in the business world love it because they understand that my skills are actually anticipating 3 to 5 to 7 different scenarios of a given, right? But that I give the credit to chess.
Yeah, it's like a practical application of the rules and the things that we learned in chess in real life.
Yep, absolutely.
Great. A slightly different question.
Sure.
You play online? Did you?
I have tried.
Okay.
And I've played online, and I found that it helped me to get back into that anxiety of playing chess because the opponent could not see me. So if I lost, I took it, like online was one of the first things that
good things
helped
that has
me.
happened.
Yes, helped me.
It's like very therapeutic from your perspective.
Correct.
Cool. So question is, why is it important to play both online and over the board?
Both. Number one, online is connecting you, believe it or not, especially today, because online, if you play with a different country players, on its own, it's a practice of a different cultures. I found that people from different countries popular openings are different to each country. And there are openings that would have never played. And when I played online, I was like, whoa, like at first, like, I don't know, this player is probably just like, messing with me. And then 10 moves into it, I'm in the losing side, like just but
Right.
and then I would kind of do my research, go back, learn the names of this opening. And I think that was one of the things, like the playing style, like the chess style. Also, the sacrifice style is different,
Right.
catering to different countries. So that will be probably number one.
Cultural difference in the and the
And
various
then
styles.
in person, it's actual dealing with your anxiety is more important. I feel like online chess players have less anxiety for the same reason. Nobody sees you that you're playing.
What do you prefer?
Because of my anxiety, online.
I prefer over the board.
That's what I said. So
Yeah.
I personally prefer the live chess if it's friendly,
Yeah.
right?
It's not a competition.
But competition, I think for me, it's just for me right now, it's online is better.
Cool. What do you think kids should do when they get stuck at something or they're not improving?
Stop playing chess for a little bit. I'm honest. Chess has the tendency to make you miss it. It's like a relationship, right? After 3 years, you're like, I don't want to do it. Detach from it for a little bit. Honestly, I think if you feel like you're stuck, that means you don't have enough courage. Not courage, sorry. Let me remember
Mojo.
the word. Inspiration.
Inspiration.
It's like, you need a break. Take a break.
Take a break, reflect,
Yeah.
relax,
Take
and
a
then
break,
come back.
reflect. The one thing that I discourage is deliberately playing.
For the sake of playing is not good.
For sake of playing, and also going back and playing with somebody that doesn't know chess well just to boost your ego. That's a big no-no. Always try to play with the stronger opponents than yourself, but be confident in yourself that you're treating this as like a free training. When you play with a better player, that's like a university 101 for you, for free. See what they do, see how they handle themselves, see what openings they played, right? So instead of thinking, oh, I lost with a higher rated player, treat it as like they give you actually an honor by playing with you. They've indulged you by sharing their knowledge with you.
Right.
So soak it in, and learn.
Cool. Let's talk a little bit about some fun facts in the future. So, what's your favorite memory from your chess life as a kid?
Going to Batumi city where they built a chess. They call it a chess castle.
Chess castle?
It actually looks like a Disney castle, and they've built it primarily to host the European Championship. I want to say it was 1988. I want to say it was 1988, and it was European Championship. And bunch of kids got to volunteer to go as assistants.
Oh, wow.
Some of them played clean, some of them, did the setups, some of them took after, and there were great legends that came to the tournament. That's where I actually met Judith Polgar. And
if Judith is watching, shout out to her.
I really want to go back, and I want to really confirm that it was Judith. But if this is it, I can take this out. But it was one of the Polgars. Let's put it this way. But it was still a big deal, right?
Yeah.
And I remember just meeting with everybody. And being as a teenager, being in this aura and watching the players, and that was yet another, like I said, like we were old enough to know that being there alone was a privilege. So watching the players, how they dealt, how they managed their losses, right? How nobody they were actually, I remember one of the players did that, this kind of like swipe the board because they lost, and I remember everybody's reaction was like, gosh, like this is a frowned upon a fancy word I learned later on in life in English. But this was a very frowned upon behavior from that chess player, right?
Yeah, of course.
And just seeing how they
Reacted.
how the community reacted. It was like never. And in your brain, like, Nia, never do that again. Like, make sure you're not a bitter loser, right? Bitter loser.
Bitter loser.
Yeah. So basically, being in that, the whole 10 days was just one of the best experiences. Also, this is not chess related, but it was funny, cultural awakening. That was my first culture, like, maybe be careful moment. I remember we were playing after the games. So all the boards are open for everybody to review the board, and all the games were already uploaded in the system, so we could pick up the game of certain player and we would review. So the kids would sit down and we would review the game. And I remember this person next to us just sitting and doing his own thing, and we're kind of being teenagers. We're doing exactly what I said not to do. Made fun of the person that made a mistake in the game. But we don't know whose game that is.
Okay.
We just picked up a random game to review, or we were even given by our teacher to review this game. And we're just like, kind of being kids and BSing.
Bombasting that person.
Oh, yes, bombasting is the word, right? And then this person who is clearly a foreigner, turns out to us and says it in Georgian, perfect Georgian. Yes, exactly the mistakes that I should have done, so kids like you would not make fun of me. Oh my God. Such an embarrassing moment. The person that we made fun of was sitting there like, oh my God, we died. And we kind of like, I literally fall off my chair. I started laughing, I fell off my chair, but like my butt on the floor. The other girls just ran away. Of course, later on we came and apologized. But guess what? That was the same person whose name unfortunately I don't remember today, but the same person that says, like, the moment you stop making fun of another opponent, that's where you enter the world of the professional chess players. The moment you realize that there has to be a losing side. Not all games will be draw, right? So it has to be, and then
somebody has to win, somebody has to lose.
And then it's kind of like, it's funny. Like, if we go to a little philosophical, death and life, losing and winning, they're all brother and sisters. Like, good side and the bad side, like good and evil, right? It's all part of the life. Like, you cannot take one and still call it a life. So that was my lesson one.
Chess lesson 101.
Yeah.
Okay, if you could play a chess game anywhere in the world, where would it be?
Where would it be? Do you know what's interesting? I've always wanted to, it's not a tournament, and we can talk about this serious tournaments, but I yet have to play the chess in New York City.
New York, oh really?
In the park.
And that
And I've been so many times in New York City.
Central Park.
And I'm not kidding you. Nobody ever asked me this question.
No.
So it's literally like right now, because I just came from New York City like 3 days ago, and I remember I was driving by through the park and I saw those players that were playing, and I actually just had, it's ironic that you asked me, and I just had that feeling, which again, remember, I don't play, and I was like, I have to come back and just randomly go and play these. Most of the time they're older gentlemen that play, but whomever is playing, I was like, this is the one thing that I've never done. Central Park. I was like, I think this is my next visit. And again, by the way, now that we're here, I'm going there in May. I think I'm going to do this. I'm going to record it for you.
I am going to
go. Okay, I'm going to go there. We have a show in May, so I'm going to go, and I'm going to make a point to go and actually, hopefully somebody will let me play. We'll see. But I'll record it, and then you can use it.
I'll look forward for that.
Okay.
So, what do you plan to do in future for chess? I know we're getting associated and doing multiple things, but other than that, what's your personal plan for future, and how do you plan to keep learning?
My learning is through my students.
Through your teaching, okay.
Yes, my learning is through my students today, and I want to learn with them because now I realize that they learn much faster than back then. Same reason, right? Technology.
Technology.
They have access to online games, so their learning speed is much faster than
It was before.
it was mine, right? Their learnings, their playing styles is also much different from ours. They're more daring, right? I'm not a fan of the speed games. I personally, nobody can challenge me to play a 3-minute or 5-minute games. I just don't see the value. That's just my personal view. I understand that there are games 15 minutes and above, maybe. But my personal goal in chess to actually combine. Ideally, I want to be the person that will start the campaign where chess will become part of the like a mainstream curriculum at schools, right? And with that said, collaborating with the child psychologists or psychologists, collaborating and helping them create healthier teaching environment, not just for the chess though.
Got it.
Healthier teaching environment in any post-school curriculums out there, right?
And finally, what's one thing that you want to say to the kids who are aspiring to get, if not professional, maybe at some level, advanced level in chess?
Why play chess, or just inspiring? Why play chess? In the world of millions of games created to be created, chess is the one thing that has lasted generations. Understand this. Chess is the one game, science, right, and sport. This is the only thing that can qualify.
Art, science, and sport,
right? Can qualify. Chess is the one thing that has survived, evolved, but also kind of maintained its original form. And chess is the one thing that even today, when I say I'm either a former chess player or teach chess, creates that a little bit of pride when I speak with other people, because it did help a lot. Right? So as a young adult learning chess, understand that you're acquiring the lifetime skill.
Absolutely.
You're actually acquiring lifetime skill outside of the game, outside of that little tournament. This is something that will follow you later on in life, and you will see tremendous benefits that you may not see today, but also if you learn, it will also bring you a lot of fun and create a lifetime friendship for you later on in life. You can make friends across the globe.
That's true.
Right.
That's a great networking tool. So have you heard of the new trend in chess? It's called Fischer Random.
Now you're going to put me on spot as an old lady. And no, I'm okay to say no.
So here's the...
It's okay.
Here they call it freestyle chess. Freestyle chess is they're randomly placed. The pieces are randomly placed and not in their position.
Okay.
And you have to start a game and finish the game with those pieces randomly placed.
I'll be a little bitter. I'll be a European direct, call it what it want. But it goes same to what I said earlier. Please respect chess. Please respect it enough to not abusing it and call that other game something different. If you want to create something unique, make your own game. In the world, as I said, in the world of millions games out there, why change a beautiful thing as we have it just so we can tap ourselves on the shoulders and I did something different? Call it a different game. That's what I say. I'm not excited. I'm a little bit, even because I didn't hear that, that's not necessarily offended in a way. It is what it is. We live in the world of the free, free speech, whatnot. But my suggestion is that respect the chess in its original form. And if you want to create a new game, create it and be that person that has the new name for the new beautiful. I'm sure it's going to be beautiful. Just call it a different thing.
Makes sense. Nia, as always, pleasure talking to you.
Thank you.
And I've learned so many things, and I hope to continue to learn from you.
It was pleasure. It was pleasure speaking. Somewhat, difficult questions. Somewhat difficult questions that I thought that I would be,
Encountering with.
correct. But again, probably very important if there's that one person or one student that after this interview can benefit.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'd be honored. I'll be honored.
Yeah, that's the whole idea. And our idea is to kind of inspire kids, not just kids, anybody who wants to take up chess and see what the benefits of chess are, and learn from people who've been there, done that.
Yeah.
There's obviously every picture is not a rosy picture. There is good side and there's bad side. Not necessarily bad side, it's a learning side. And you always don't have to only listen to the good side of things. You have to also learn to accept some of the things that have caused challenges.
Yes, challenging, difficult times. Yeah, we learn.
Absolutely.
We'll learn.
So always a pleasure again, and look forward to having another conversation sometime next week.
Thank you very much. Have
Thank
a great
you.
day.
What a great conversation we had with Nia, and we learned quite a few things. Especially kids, if you're watching this, you should have taken some copious notes, and if you haven't, watch it again. And look forward to having another conversation with Nia. We will continue this series, and we'll continue with different topics, different lessons, and different agenda.